Hey everyone and welcome back. I think we all know what it feels like when that afternoon coffee just isn't cutting it anymore, right? And we start to wonder, is coffee actually messing with my sleep?
Yeah, it's definitely a question a lot of us have.
Well, today we're diving deep into an article that tackles this very topic.
That's right. It's called Why is Coffee Not Keeping Me Awake Anymore? From the website Coffee at Corner. And get this. It starts by suggesting that decaf coffee might actually help you sleep.
Wait, really? Decaf? That's kind of surprising.
Right? But it makes sense when you think about it.
So how does that work?
Well, it's not just about the caffeine itself, but also those pesky caffeine metabolites. Those byproducts our bodies create when we break down caffeine. The article suggests those metabolites might be keeping you up at night, even when you think the caffeine buzz has worn off.
Interesting. So switching to decaf could actually be the ticket to a good night's sleep.
It's definitely worth a shot. Now, this is where it's really interesting. Remember that study we talked about a while back? The one linking regular coffee consumption to a 40% reduction in mortality for women across all age groups.
Hold on. 40%, that's a massive number.
Right.
8 or more cups a week? That's a lot of coffee.
I know, right? It seems counterintuitive, especially when we often hear about the negative effects of caffeine. But this study, and a bunch of others, suggest there might be some protective benefits to coffee, especially when it comes to respiratory diseases and maybe even some types of cancer.
So coffee might not be the villain we thought it was.
Well, it's not that simple. While those studies are promising, we need way more research to really grasp how coffee affects our health.
Okay, so no chugging espresso all day long just yet.
Definitely not. But it does make you think about coffee in a new light. And speaking of nuance, the article then shifts gears to talk about the importance of good sleep and how it impacts our overall health.
And I think this part is particularly important because it highlights how crucial sleep is for so much more than just feeling rested.
Absolutely. If you're constantly sacrificing sleep, you're putting your body at risk for some serious problems. We're talking about depression, diabetes, obesity, heart disease, the list goes on.
Wow, that's a serious wake-up call. So how do we actually get better sleep? I feel like I've tried everything, but I still toss and turn all night.
Well, the article suggests working with your body's natural sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm.
Circadian rhythm, you mean like our body's internal clock?
Exactly. It's like your body has this clock that's totally in sync with the sun. But when you disrupt that rhythm, it can throw your whole system off, leaving you feeling tired even when you think you've slept enough.
So if I'm forcing myself to go to bed early when my body's not ready, I'm actually working against my natural rhythm.
Yeah, it's like trying to make your body run a marathon when it's only trained for a light jog.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So aligning our schedule with our natural cues is way more effective.
You got it. And you know what? That actually leads perfectly into the next point the article brings up, which is all about boosting focus and energy in ways that don't just rely on coffee. It's not all about sleep, though, right? The article talks about how exercise can really boost your energy levels. And don't forget about taking breaks during the day to recharge.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and forget to just pause for a minute.
Totally. And your environment matters too. Make your home a comfortable and inviting space. Even listening to music can boost your mood and help you focus.
I love that. So it's like setting yourself up for success even when you're not sleeping.
Exactly. The article also makes a big point about waking up at the same time each day, even on weekends.
Ouch, that one's tough.
Yeah.
But it makes sense if it helps regulate your circadian rhythm, right?
Right. Small steps, though. Don't try to change everything overnight. Once you've got that wake-up time nailed down, you can start tweaking your bedtime.
Speaking of bedtime, I've got to ask about tea. Does it affect sleep the same way coffee does?
Good question. The article actually addresses that. Turns out most teas have less caffeine than coffee, so a cup before bed might not be so disruptive.
But everyone's different, right? Some people are more sensitive to caffeine than others.
Totally.
Yeah.
Their article also talks about staying hydrated and eating regularly for better sleep.
Makes sense. I feel my best when I'm taking care of those basic needs.
Right. It's all connected. When our bodies are running smoothly, everything works better, including sleep.
Okay, so we've talked about good habits and those pesky caffeine metabolites. Now let's get into this sleep hygiene thing the article mentions. What exactly is that?
Sleep hygiene is all about creating the right conditions for restful sleep. It's like a bedtime ritual that tells your body, okay, time to wind down.
I like that. So what kind of things are we talking about?
The article mentions things like a consistent bedtime, avoiding stuff that keeps you awake, and making your bedroom a calming space.
Yeah, those all make sense.
A consistent routine could be anything, really. A warm bath, reading, some chill music, anything that helps you de-stress. And avoiding things that keep you awake. Well, that means cutting down on screen time before bed.
Because that blue light, right, the stuff that messes with our melatonin.
Yep, that's the one. It basically tricks your brain into thinking it's still daytime, so no more scrolling through your phone in bed.
Easier said than done, I know, but it makes sense. The article also suggests stopping coffee after dinner.
Right. It takes longer than you think for caffeine to leave your system. Cutting it off after dinner can really help you sleep better.
So what are some good alternatives to that after-dinner coffee?
Herbal teas are great, especially chamomile or lavender. They're known for being super calming. A warm glass of milk or hot chocolate can also do the trick. And if you need a snack, stick to something light and easy to digest, like fruit or nuts.
Okay, so late-night snacks don't have to be the enemy of good sleep. What about screen time in general? I think we all know it's not great for sleep, but the article really dives into why.
Yeah, we talked about the blue light and melatonin, but it goes deeper than that. Looking at screens keeps your mind active, even if you think you're just relaxing.
It's like our brains associate screens with being busy and engaged, even if we're just scrolling through social media.
Exactly, so put the phone away and do something calming instead. Take a bath, read a book.
Signal to your brain that it's time to wind down. Speaking of helpful habits, the article suggests keeping a sleep journal. I've tried that before, but it's been a while.
A sleep journal can be really insightful. You track what time you go to bed and wake up, how many times you wake up during the night, how rested you feel, and anything that might have affected your sleep, like stress, food, you name it.
Right, it's like connecting the dots between your habits and how well you sleep.
That's exactly it. And once you've got some data in that journal, the article recommends talking to a doctor or health professional about it.
So don't just try to figure it out on your own. Get some expert advice.
Right. Now, going back to that study about coffee and mortality, the article talks about how coffee's effect on wakefulness could be linked to its ability to raise blood sugar levels.
Hold on, you mean the energy boost from coffee might be more about a sugar spike than a direct effect on our sleep-wake cycle?
That's what the article suggests. Pretty interesting, right? It challenges the way we usually think about coffee.
And get this, the article then talks about how some types of coffee, specifically decaf, could actually lower blood sugar levels.
It's like decaf is a whole different drink when you look at its effects on the body.
So maybe decaf is a secret weapon for managing blood sugar.
We need more research to know for sure, but it's definitely intriguing. Now, we've talked a lot about working with our natural sleep rhythm, but how do we even know what our rhythm is? The article talks about aligning with the sun.
That makes sense. Our bodies were designed to follow the sun's natural cycle, right?
Exactly. And when we get out of sync with that cycle, it can really drain our energy. That's why getting sunlight, especially in the morning, is so important. It helps regulate our circadian rhythm and tells our bodies it's time to wake up.
So opening the curtains and letting the sun shine in is a good thing.
Absolutely. And dimming the lights in the evening helps signal to your body that it's time to wind down.
So we're creating those environmental cues to support our natural sleep-wake cycle. It's all starting to make sense. But what about those nights when you're in bed at a decent hour, everything's calm and quiet, but your mind just won't shut off? The article mentions how many people are physically in bed, but their minds are still going a mile a minute.
Yeah, it's like there's a difference between being physically tired and mentally tired. We might be lying in bed, but we're still replaying conversations or worrying about tomorrow.
So how do we bridge that gap between physical and mental rest? Is this where sleep hygiene comes back in?
Exactly. It's not just about the environment. It's about doing things that help you relax both physically and mentally.
So those bedtime routines we were talking about, like a warm bath, calming music, maybe even some meditation.
Exactly. And the article emphasizes how important it is to avoid things that keep your mind buzzing before bed, like stressful projects or arguments.
It's about giving your mind a break, a chance to transition from go mode to rest mode.
Think of it like this. You wouldn't expect a musician to go straight into a concert without warming up their instrument. Our minds need that preparation time, too.
So we're creating a pre-sleep ritual to help us wind down.
Exactly. And those small, consistent changes we were talking about earlier can really add up. Choose a relaxing activity instead of a stimulating one. Dim the lights instead of keeping them bright. Set a cutoff time for work. These are all ways to signal to your mind and body that it's time to relax.
It's like gently inviting sleep instead of trying to force it.
Exactly. Speaking of gentle invitations, the article has some specific tips for people who struggle to fall asleep easily. One big one is having a consistent bedtime routine.
We've touched on that, but I think it's worth digging a little deeper. What are some examples of good bedtime routines?
A warm bath, reading, listening to relaxing music, or even trying some relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation are all great options. The key is to find something that helps you de-stress and unwind.
So it's not about following a strict script, but about finding what works for you.
Right. The article also says to avoid spending hours before bed doing things that make your mind work hard, like reading or watching TV.
It's about giving your mind and body time to chill out before you hit the hay.
And speaking of things to avoid before bed, the article really stresses how important it is to limit screen time. We know blue light messes with melatonin, but looking at screens before bed also keeps your mind active and engaged.
Yeah, it's like telling our brains it's still daytime when it's actually time to wind down.
Exactly. So put those devices away and do something more calming instead, like taking a bath or reading a book.
Okay, so we're signaling to our brains that it's time for sleep. But what if you absolutely have to check your phone or emails at night?
The article acknowledges that sometimes you just have to be connected, even in the evening.
So it's not about being totally tech-free, but about setting boundaries and prioritizing sleep.
Exactly. If you have to use your phone at night, do it in a well-lit room and don't stare directly at the screen.
And of course, limit your screen time as much as possible in that hour or two before bed.
Definitely. Now, the article ends with a suggestion that we've talked about a bit already, keeping a sleep journal.
I'm curious to hear more about how that can help us sleep better.
It's all about tracking your sleep habits so you can figure out what's affecting how well you sleep. Things like what time you go to bed and wake up, how often you wake up at night, how you feel when you wake up in the morning, and anything that might have messed with your sleep, like caffeine, stress, or what you ate.
Right, it's like becoming a detective for your own sleep patterns.
Exactly. And once you've got all that info, the article says to talk to your doctor or a health professional about it.
So they can give you some personalized advice.
Exactly. If you're struggling with sleep, don't just tough it out. Talk to someone who can help.
Wow, this has been a super informative deep dive. So if you're reaching for that extra cup of coffee just to function, or lying awake at night with your mind racing, I think we've given you some great starting points for tackling those sleep challenges.
I hope so. And what's so fascinating is how interconnected everything is, right? It's not just about how many hours you're in bed, it's about understanding your body's natural rhythms and creating healthy habits that support those rhythms.
Yeah, and recognizing when it's time to get some expert advice, like talking to a doctor.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach to sleep, considering everything from the obvious, like caffeine and screen time, to those little rituals that can help us wind down, even the environment we create in our bedrooms.
It's like recognizing that sleep isn't just something we have to do, it's something we should want to do because it impacts every part of our lives. It can boost our mood, help us focus, and even contribute to our long-term health.
Absolutely. And if you're still feeling that afternoon slump and reaching for coffee all the time, it might be worth thinking about what else could be going on. Maybe it's a sign of something deeper, like a sleep disorder or a nutritional deficiency.
That's a great point. Our bodies have ways of telling us when something's off. So paying attention to those signs, making sleep a priority, and talking to a healthcare professional when you need to are all so important.
Well said. I think that wraps up our deep dive for today. Sleep well, everyone.